Today we're talking about Helldivers. I want to forget about the sins of the past and my miserable experience. We're talking about the funny meme game today. Do you know anything
We're
about
talking
it?
about Helldivers. Bro really dove into hell with this last week. Wait,
That
sorry,
was
sorry.
Steve. That was worse than testicular torsion.
Next.
Why would you make it? All right. So we're gonna be going not super in-depth because the game doesn't have an enormous amount of lore, but we're going to be going a little bit into the various enemies, the different factions, talking about how Super Earth is the worst thing ever, and we're also going to be discussing a lot of the really, really overplayed memes from the game. I'm assuming at the very least you know of the game, even if you know nothing about it.
Correct.
Okay, fantastic. That saves me a decent amount of explaining on what a video game is. You've successfully cut down half of the work, Steve. Good job.
Hell yeah. All I know is it's basically Starship Troopers, but video game format.
Wow, that's actually an extremely accurate description of Helldivers 2.
I refuse to play it still, even though I love that movie, but...
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. $40 is $40 after all.
More effective FPS is FPS. Especially one where I, like, have to deal with other people. Like, I can do enlisted and stuff, but...
I feel you on that. My biggest draw for Helldivers is that the community plays the game for me, because I log in like once every 2 weeks, and they've completed a whole bunch of major orders, and hey ho, a ton of medals have just been gifted to my account for free. Thanks, everybody.
Understandable. We appreciate your contributions. I'm doing my part.
We're winning the war, and I have done nothing. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about Super Earth, Managed Democracy, the various horrible, no-good, undemocratic enemies of Super Earth, and discussing the First and Second Intergalactic Wars. I guess we'll also be throwing some stuff in there about the Helldivers, but, like, they're entirely expendable, so they'll come later near the end. They're also the least cool part of the setting.
Shit, where's Stallone at? I'm talking about the Expendables.
Before we fully get into things, though, introductions. Generic greetings and welcome to Science and Sanity, channel dedicated to bringing my love of sci-fi to all of you watching, and along for the ride and serving as my co-host, friend, and content fodder is Steve. Introduce yourself, Steve.
Hello.
No, not hello. I said introduce yourself. I'm not doing the thing. I'm putting you on the spot and making sure you're actually here and paying attention.
Hello, I am Steve.
Come on, man.
Next. Next.
Fine, then. Fine. We'll start with the center of my whole intro. Throw it out. Throw it all out. So we're going to be starting with the center of the whole thing, then. Super Earth. You want to take a wild guess why the faction we fight for in the lore has the dumbest name ever?
Because we found a way to combine Mars and Earth, so it's now just Super Earth, because fuck Mars.
I mean, okay, you're not entirely wrong. There is an element of everything is part of Earth now, and we're the only planet that matters, but...
Did we just take over the Milky Way? Is Super Earth just the entire Milky Way galaxy?
Yes, that's part of the reason. It's not all of it. The main reason is just because it's Earth, but super. And you better goddamn keep saying it's super, otherwise you're going to be sent to the nearest concentration camp.
I for one would like to be a citizen.
I mean, yeah, sure. There's only 2 requirements. Number 1, you have to be willing to die for Super Earth, and number 2, you have to vote. It's mandatory. This may be a democracy, but not voting means that you are not democratic and therefore the enemy. So as long as you can meet those 2 requirements, you're good to go, Steve.
Outstanding.
Wonderful. Welcome to parody, or something, I guess. We're diving into the absurd dimension today. You might then ask, what the hell is Super Earth even? Long story short, in the games, you're playing as the bad guys. Mankind is just the worst. Like, everything from top to bottom is a giant stack of screaming idiots all trying to out-freedom one another, but in reality, you're serving one of the worst totalitarian regimes that's probably ever existed. They just have really, really good PR and fantastic uniforms, so they're really good at convincing people that they're not terrible.
That's all you need.
Yeah, we're talking the classics here, by the way. Speech and thought police, mass executions and public assassinations of the opposition, utterly restricted freedoms and rights, like there's literally legal waivers that you have to sign if you want to get laid. Canonically, it's called a CO1 form.
Literally 1984.
Yeah, in fact, I'm gonna throw some posters in for you just because it's so ridiculous and it kind of sets the theme for what we're talking about. Remember to fill in your CO1 permit before any act that could result in a child. And for the most part, it's restricted to like Helldivers, which are the part of the military, but the community generally has decided, no, it applies to everybody at all times, with such wonderful parts of the form you have to fill in, such as when and where did you engage in intercourse? Who did you engage with? How long was the intercourse? And all of the shit like that, which just really, really fits Super Earth and how ridiculous they are. So kind of.
I mean, it's really important info. They do kind of need to know that though. Wait, why is there residence at time of intercourse? Are we saying that people are moving the same day? Are we changing place of residence that often?
The Super Earth can canonically just move people around whatever, so it wouldn't be out of the realms of possibility that they could just tell you are moving to another planet and you get the notification in the middle of getting it on. Pack your bags. I don't care if you're at half-mast, you're leaving for the front lines.
Why is it 100 credits per copy?
Because in this universe, there's no such thing as free love, Steve. You gotta pay for that shit.
Oh, the hippies would not have survived. All right, moving on now.
Moving on, finally. We've been on this for far too long. So, Super Earth is a democracy. They constantly go on about it, like I was saying, but they are objectively not. Do you want to take a wild stab in the dark about what managed democracy is? Because that's what Super Earth is. It's a managed democracy.
The least democratic form of democracy possible.
You are incredibly correct. It's like the loosest, most threadbare possible definition, a democracy. The best way I can explain it, like how do I phrase this? You know those personality quizzes you find on Facebook or Twitter or something, right? It just spits something random back at you. It vaguely similar, but not at all accurate to what you picked. It's literally that, but automatic. You don't even get to fill it in.
Aww.
Yeah, when you go to vote, you just slap a button on a computer and it votes for you based on a complex and totally accurate assessment of your upstanding character as a Super Earth citizen. That way, Super Earth can pick the best possible candidate to ensure your vote matters.
I mean, why are we having to go vote then if it already knows who everyone's voting for?
Because the entire point of this is obfuscation and lies. Like, Super Earth is the most propagandized thing ever. The enemies of Super Earth in the cutscenes and the animations and the introductions and all of that the devs have made is literally stuff like an enemy running up, punching someone's wife and stealing the baby in the baby carriage and running away. That's how they portray the enemies in this setting. It is propaganda to the extreme.
Would you like to know more?
Voting, from what I remember, is also mandatory. Like, you don't get a choice, Grandpa. It's off to the polling station or off to the Soylent Green facility. There are no other choices. There are multiple examples where Super Earth was just, well, you didn't push the button on time. The computer says you didn't, even though you say you did. And since you didn't vote, you're not a citizen anymore. Off to the slave mines with you.
We all know the computers don't lie. I mean, they're always 100% accurate all the time, so...
So basically, whenever Super Earth sees something they don't like, they react like it's the McCarthy era witch hunts, and they just do it on an interstellar scale. Just push these people up, scream at them, beat the shit out of them, and kill them if they don't immediately bend the knee. But there are a number of factions that are not quite so democratic as to be part of Super Earth. These are the disgusting commies, the evil aliens, the terrorists, the unfeeling hordes that you fight against as a Helldiver. And the first thing I want to talk about is the terminids, because they are the most simple and easy to deal with. And once again, Starship Troopers, do you know what the terminids are?
The bugs.
Yes, that is 100% correct.
From Klendathu. Wait, sorry.
Fun fact, that's not their homeworld in Helldivers, but there is a legally distinct Klendath 2, which is in the game.
No shot.
Please do not sue.
Where's Neil Patrick Harris?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, and these are extremely similar to the bugs from Starship Troopers. Let's discuss a little bit about why Super Earth is actually at war with the bugs, and this is a very realistic. What's the biggest motivator for real life America to do like anything on the global stage, Steve?
Oil.
Holy shit, you got it in one. I had like an entire paragraph here dedicated to just in case you started waffling with different bullet points and jokes. But yeah, oil.
I could have. I mean, I can go ahead and start waffling if you want. You just change it around to the end. I mean.
Nah, it's okay. I'll let you have your moment of brilliance in the sun.
Okay.
I won't rob you of
Outstanding.
this. So, in the grim darkness of the far future, we still rely on dinosaur juice to make our cars go. And good God, does Super Earth need a whole hell of a lot of dinosaur juice. Luckily, a discovery was made on the far eastern fringes of Super Earth's space territory, Element 710, a miracle resource that's produced in the complex chemical soup of terminid corpse piles. I want you to look at Element 710. Do you know what Element 710 is?
No.
Rotated 180 degrees. What do you get?
Oil E.
Exactly.
I guess it's actually oil 3, but
It's painfully stupid. So when you kill the terminids, they decay into oil. They dissolve into the black, tarry sludge of life that powers the mighty economy of Super Earth.
behold, renewable energy.
That's actually a thing in universe, Steve.
Oh,
Super Earth is
my God.
Super Earth is constantly like are ethically sourced and renewable materials, and it's just like we're slaughtering the bugs to farm them for oil.
Guys, we didn't get enough oil today. We need to ramp up production tomorrow.
Well, we'll get into that on why the terminids seem to be fucking everywhere, despite the fact that they have no spacefaring capability. They're just insects. How? Why? Like, we know what they are, we know roughly how they work, but there's a huge number of blank spaces that are just completely empty. Like, as far as we see, they're just bugs, like I said, no higher intelligence to be found, utterly devoid of thoughts, head empty, basically our comment section, and yet
Oh,
we're confronted with the very strange and rather spooky reality that they are on a lot of different worlds and they keep spreading somehow, like a plague. They were found across a bunch of different systems, which would leave you to believe that they are somehow capable of spaceflight. Yet we never see them do anything more than dig in the mud and stink really, really bad to call in reinforcements during a fight.
okay.
Oh, that's right, you're not familiar. Hang on, let me see if I can get a picture of the Helldivers 2 bug hole. I promise that's not as inappropriate as it sounds.
Proof?
Bug holes, giant glowing geysers of stink that the bugs crawl out of. And when you are fighting them, they can also vomit this crap up all over the place and call more bugs to help them. So some fan theories suggest that the bugs can do a Starship Troopers and spread through the use of meteorites that they just yeet out into space. But another really popular theory is that Super Earth keeps trying to farm the little shits since, infinite oil printer, but keeps failing miserably since they're essentially an angry living blender and every planet they bring the bugs to inevitably gets overrun.
Okay.
There is proof for this as well, because there's limited examples where Super Earth admits to trying to farm them, but then
it would have rehabilitated them somehow. I mean,
eventually. But they broke out, so now they have to die, and that's basically the justification Super Earth uses. Another idea, the least popular one, but kind of related to the lore of what they are, is that they spread through spores. So whenever asteroids impact their planets, it launches these spores out into space. In which case, the terminids have been spreading across the galaxy like a wet fart for millions of years, but personally, I'm a fan of the farming theory since Super Earth is just so hilariously incompetent that it would just make sense.
alright, I'm with you on it.
Overall, we have no idea, though. They could just be teleporting for all we know.
Oh, shit, not the teleporting bugs.
Worst of all, they could be really big mushrooms. The worst pizza topping grew legs and is coming to kick your ass.
Huh?
Yeah, so the terminids are a weird mix of life that nobody's really quite sure on. Some theories suggest that they're a mix of like two different life forms, the bug that you see and the fungus that they like belch out that you see pouring from the bug holes and stuff, and that they create a lot of these like spore towers and stuff. Others think that the terminids are a single biological life form, which would make them just really, really hyper advanced and very angry mushrooms. I kind of like that theory because it's just really funny, and it would explain why everywhere they go, they manage to build all of these weird, goopy-looking mushroom kind of structures and plants everywhere.
I ain't even got nothing for that one.
All in all, though, they're probably the most genuine of all the enemy's Super Earth faces. Like, they're mindless, they're extremely aggressive, they're very angry, and they're very hungry. They eat everything, so, you know, they're kind of an all-devouring swarm. So when Super Earth says that only their total extinction is the only outcome that's, like, positive, yeah, fair enough, I believe that one. But that brings us to the next enemy that's currently in the game, and the bane of every player, and spawner of many, many memes, and the farmer of many rage-filled tears. The bots. The automatons, or as they used to be called, the cyborgs. I'm assuming you know nothing about these guys either.
No.
So let me throw some pictures in, you kind of understand. Obviously, they're robots. Wow, what a shock. Who could have guessed?
No way.
With a name like automatons, truly, it is the strangest of occurrences that they're robots.
Okay, but why do they all have faces, though?
We will get to that. There's a reason for that, and it's mostly spite and petty humor from the robots. Let's start with the history of the cyborgs first. Originally in the first game, the major enemy faction to like the galactic west-ish of the game's war map was the cyborgs. A terrible, no-good group of subversives and terrorists, rebel separatists of Super Earth that claim everyone is brainwashed and that Super Earth is a hellish dictatorial shithole. They are also fanatically obsessed with augmenting their bodies with foul, unholy technology. Worst of all, they're goddamn commies. They believe in collective self-rule and betterment of the group. Their very existence was an insult to Super Earth, and so they needed to die. And what kicked off the first galactic war against them was when Cyberstan, their home world, because of course it had to be named that, formalized its own state in opposition to Super Earth and its ideals. They announced this by bombing a massive residential area on Earth and killing thousands of civilians, presumably also managing to destroy orphanages and puppies and puppy orphanages in the blast.
No, not the puppy orphanages.
Don't worry though. Super Earth pinky promises that it wasn't a false flag attack. They swear that it was definitely these cyborgs that did it. Ignore the obviously faked footage of Super Earth agents planting the bombs. And thus, with Casus Belli in hand, a war was started. The cyborgs love their explosives and lasers and general long-range weapons, as you can see from the form of the automatons, which are their children, quote-unquote. And they farm so many tiers. There's a world called Malevelon Creek where it basically became the game's Vietnam. Just the most hellish, awful grind against the bots to make literally no progress, and Helldivers were sent in to die en masse to accomplish literally nothing, only for the bots to move back into liberated territory right after.
Were the trees speaking binary?
Dude, the trees were speaking bot. So as these cyborgs originally progressed up their ranks, they became more and more augmented until they began to look entirely like robots, although they were still human at the core. Their homeworld of Cyberstan is also a massive industrial hub, and most of the planets the cyborgs took over were similarly converted to colossally productive manufacturing centers. And Super Earth swears that they did not invade the cyborgs to take over these incredible manufacturing facilities, for which they then started to use to produce many, many big weapons of war, like the mech suits that we have in-game. They totally didn't do that.
And totally everyone believes them, surely.
Well, if you don't believe them, you're going to a re-education camp, or you're or you're going to be convinced at the end of a commissar's barrel. So, I mean,
yeah, no, I mean, definitely everyone believes them. That's what I mean.
Shortly after the invasion was concluded, however, Super Earth set about pacifying the planet with the mass installation of voting booths and the mandatory participation in managed democracy.
Yeah, the not a democracy.
Do you remember what happens if you don't participate in that democracy?
You die.
Yeah, exactly. So any Cyberstani citizen that didn't engage in their state-mandated right to democracy wound up losing their citizenship and becoming veritable slaves. Surprisingly enough, turns out that none of those voting stations worked. So within 5 years, Cyberstan was a compliant world, and the vast majority of the Cyberstani people had been enslaved to work in the vast mines of the planet. And that brings us about to Helldivers 2, where instead of cyborgs, it's the automatons. I mentioned briefly that they're the children of the cyborgs, and they kind of are. Fully robotic murder machines designed to destroy democracy. They are kind of alive, and they were created by the cyborgs to fulfill their will of destroying Super Earth and building their own nation free from the tyranny of managed democracy. The bots are also similar to the bugs in that they harbor a few very confusing and very spooky secrets that make them a far larger threat than they first seem. They travel between worlds using technological spaceships. It's not really clear where they're getting them from or how they managed to get so goddamn many of these spaceships, because after the community beat the hell out of the bots the first time, fully pushing them out of the galaxy map and celebrating the success of Operation Swift Disassembly, which is a hell of a name.
That's a pretty good name.
Yeah, it's a hell of a name. The bots rallied and showed up with a colossal fleet to reinitiate the fight and take back several previously liberated planets in a massive horde of gunfire and explosions. Yeah, so realistically though, it should have been impossible for the bots to push back like this, since their homeworld and all of their territory was completely gone, and yet somehow they came back stronger than ever. The reason could hint at a future relationship with the third enemy faction in the setting that has not yet appeared in Helldivers 2, but was a major enemy in Helldivers 1, the Illuminate. I assume, par for the course, that you know absolutely nothing about them.
Correct.
You know what? So you ever see those people walking around with like Apple Glass or Google Glass or whatever, like those headsets and stuff in public?
No, I can't say that I have, but
yeah, okay, well, yeah,
go on.
Yeah, they're uber morons, like walking fools, classic geeks, some real nerds, like the kind of losers that even idiots with YouTube channels talking about sci-fi laugh at. Like, you know the people I'm talking about, right?
Oh shit.
The Illuminate are basically that. That's what the Illuminate are as a faction. Hyper advanced tech bros with dishwashers glued to their foreheads and microwaves on their feet. The Illuminate, or the Squith as they like to call themselves, are fish people.
It only makes sense.
Presumably naming their race after the sound they make when you shoot them. Hundreds of thousands of years old, the Illuminate have advanced beyond Super Earth so far that their tech has essentially become magic. Teleportation, invisibility, crazy energy weapons, ridiculous space travel across the stars, and more. But it's suggested in the lore that the Illuminate are like all of the aliens ever. UFOs, random phenomena, all that stuff that's been plaguing Earth forever. Like if some random hillbilly gets abducted and probed and then left back in his truck in the middle of the night, that was them. They were the ones that did that, observing humanity as they booze cruised around the planet in their saucer-shaped alien ships, right? The Illuminate came with an offer of peace, and once Super Earth realized that the Illuminate was way more advanced than them, like hilariously more advanced, and possessed incredibly powerful weapons, Super Earth looked at them and was like, no, we're gonna fuck around, we're gonna fight that. The justification was great as well. In Super Earth's like exact wording, the Illuminate possessed weapons of mass destruction never before seen, and to guarantee the safety and survival of Super Earth, we must commandeer those weapons for our own use.
I agree.
But I mean, okay, seriously, like, they're way more advanced than you. They're way bigger than you. They're way more powerful than you. Why are you picking a fight against them? It's the dumbest thing you could have done.
Because they're aliens, so they must die.
It's like Super Earth is like the 5'0" manlet versus the 6'6" bodybuilder, and this guy's going, yeah, I'd win.
But how though? I'm just built different.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're like, Super Earth should not have won. They should have gotten their ass beat, but, you know, whatever. Their propaganda probably lied about their victory. The Illuminate, while the other two factions are somewhat understood in what they are and how they operate, the Illuminate are one of the most mysterious enemies, since we really don't know much about how their faction, government, or even really their foot soldiers work. The best we have is that they're all nerds. The whole point of their society is... No, I'm not joking. The whole point of their society is to chase knowledge. The point of each of them is to acquire more knowledge, and the only way that you could like get ostracized from society, or like you become a pariah or whatever, is if you're really fucking dumb. If you're unable to learn fast enough, or you don't learn enough, then you're a failure and they kick you out to be like a random disposable grunt on the front lines or something.
Warranted.
So the whole point of this faction is just a whole bunch of dudes that are library maxing, and they rely on their technology to fight for them, essentially. And that's all we really know about it. The Illuminate is the what the fuck space magic as an entire enemy faction, so that's pretty much how they work. As for what they've done, their relationship is very strange with Super Earth, because the first Galactic War ended with them somehow being forced into a peace treaty where they would turn over all of their technology to Super Earth, completely disband their military, and agree to never again do anything if they just fucked off. Which sounds very strange, because Super Earth's modus operandi is murder everything and don't stop chasing them down until you've murdered everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think more realistically was like stagnating the front line. Super Earth couldn't push them back. And eventually the Illuminate was like, you know what? There's a new issue of Popular Mechanics. I'm just gonna leave. Later, dumbasses. I'm gonna go read the new tech magazine. I'll be back in 100 years to kick your ass later.
How long is that new edition?
They're slow readers, okay? They're fish people.
Oh.
They struggle with books, all right? The First War lasted from the 2080s to the mid-2120s and resulted in the entire subjugation of the cyborgs, the rough handling of the bugs, like they were pushed back and contained, and the Illuminate kind of just fucked off. But like I was saying, the fact that the bots just randomly came out of nowhere with a colossal fleet and managed to do it under the nose of Super Earth, like they didn't know it was happening, might suggest that the Illuminate has been dicking around behind the scenes to finally come back and give the shiv back to Super Earth that they planted in their kidneys during the First War. Especially because in the actual game, there's the occasional, like, rogue transmission and stuff where a Helldiver is basically like, oh god, oh fuck, oh no, they're lying to us, Super Earth was wrong, the Illuminate are coming, we're fucked, and then the transmission cuts out.
I see. Something moving out there, but it ain't us.
And that brings us, realistically, because we covered all the enemies, that's really all there is to go over, that brings us to the Helldivers themselves, and the 100-year gap between the First and Second Galactic War. What do you know about the Helldivers, Steve?
They basically ODSTs, but up armored.
I would say down armored, because they get a helmet and a chest piece, and that is like it. Everything else is just normal pants.
The ODSTs in the games, at least. I know it's not like the canon equipment for them, but maybe the same thing.
I was not aware of that, but you are more knowledgeable about Halo than I am, so I'm
just telling you what it seems like with how quickly they all die. I know it's not actually canon on what their equipment, but
yeah, well, I mean, they die quickly because the Helldivers are completely expendable. They're fodder. There's all this propaganda about them being the most elite strike teams ever, and them being highly trained, and them being ridiculously skilled, but they are really not. Like, there's some classic propaganda where it's like, no Helldiver has ever died to friendly fire. But then you see the equipment they get and you're like, I don't know about that. 500 kilogram bomb that drops like 3 seconds later. Oh, I've seen plenty of Helldivers eat shit because of that. Not to mention all the various different ways that you can get gunned down by turrets, explosives, mines. Some dude using the Darth Sidious electricity gun randomly eviscerates you because you were standing too close. Like... But overall, the Helldivers are... they're fodder, so let me kind of explain why. They are a volunteer force, for the most part, and in order to join the Helldivers, all you have to do is say, I would like to be one, and then go through the quote-unquote grueling training of like 20 minutes of basic, figuring out how to shoot a gun, and then putting on your cape. Because that's what it is. Basic training for a Helldiver is you show up to the planet, you go to the beginning of an obstacle course, you get stabbed because there is a machine called the Combat Injury Simulator, which literally just stabs you to teach you how to heal yourself. And if you die, you die. Like, that's a you problem.
Doesn't appear to be a simulation.
It's simulating. It is not a simulator. That's the difference. Then, in the tutorial, they give you a gun, they teach you how to shoot, and then they ask you to crawl through like a minefield, a gun range that's actively trying to kill you, which I died on, by the way. I thought that they wouldn't kill you, that they were like blanks or something. No, they're real ass turrets that will cut you in half if you let them. And then you gotta clear out a whole bunch of bugs, which presumably are infesting the undergrounds of the facility. And once you complete all of that, the whole time the guy's propagandizing you. And when I say propagandizing, I mean there's a drill sergeant that's like, "You're fucking invincible! You're the greatest soldier I've ever seen! What the fuck, recruit? That's a new record!" Like, just constantly. He doesn't stop. And I'm pretty sure it's pre-recorded, because he was playing those voice lines when I got murdered by the turrets, so...
That's good. That is strong.
Yeah, it was pretty funny to hear, "God damn, recruit, you're fucking invincible," as I'm dying on the floor. So, generally, it gives the impression that the Helldivers are not well trained, that they are mostly fodder, and that there may not even be anyone paying attention to the training regime, and it could be entirely automated, and they're just funneling these people into the meat grinder to meet whatever goals they have. But once you finish training, a Helldiver is immediately shoved into a cryopod and then just put on ice for... I have no idea how long. It could be over 100 years. There is no out for Helldivers. You serve until you die. Man, woman, or child, anyone can join the Helldivers. And it's expressly stated on the wiki, man, woman, or child. So there could be a very real possibility that you're running around with child soldiers there. Go ahead. Do it.
I'm gonna fight next to a 7-year-old.
Are you gonna
Sure.
do the name? Are you gonna do the thing again?
No. Nope.
I set you up for it that time. With
Would you like to know more?
No, it was the "I'm doing my part" thing. That meme from Starship
Oh
Troopers.
god, that.
The men, the woman, and the children.
I'm doing my part.
So the idea of the Helldivers being fodder is also kind of supported by how they're treated. So when you first start out, you have basically nothing in terms of gear. You basically get a shitty pistol, a terrible frag grenade, and an almost useless assault rifle, and you're basically told, make it work. They basically just fire you down there and leave you to die, hoping that you accomplish your mission. If they lose like 100 Helldivers to blow up an oil refinery or a factory or something, or blow up a bug nest, no one cares, perfectly fine.
Moving on swiftly.
There's also a few... Oh god, there's a few... Oh god. Okay, so we're diving into the horny, disgusting side of this game. You ready? You ready?
No. No.
Cool, that's too bad, I don't care. So here we go. Here's one. The pilots of a lot of the Air Force are women. Eagle pilots are notoriously mostly women. Yeah, so they're Eagle pilots, right? And this is canon. It's in game. I just want you to know. The devs saw the memes and they made it real. This is Eagle Sweat.
No.
It's so sad.
Get me out of here. I just want the video to be over.
Yeah, the devs are the worst. The devs are the best and worst kind. They bring our dreams and our nightmares to life, and I don't know whether to hate or love them for it.
It's a love-hate relationship. More of a hate than a love, though.
You want to see a really bad pun, which is also like a thing in the universe, you know, liberty? I introduce you to liberty.
Not the managed democracy. Oh, why is there Eagle Sweat on there? Get me out of here. No.
Super Earth demands you drink your mandated gamer girl bathwater. I think it's a perfume or something. I don't think.
Alright, that manufactured in a facility note is pretty good. What?
Oh man, yeah, it's amazing and awful all at once. It's the perfect in between of cursed that you can't help but love it and you can't help but hate it at the same time. And that pretty much concludes the video. That's it. Do you have any final remarks before we do our outro, Steve?
No.
Alright, well, in that case, congratulations to all the people that have made it this far. If you did, you are absolutely the target audience, fellow turbo nerds who enjoy the ridiculous and the funny in sci-fi. So why not consider leaving a like or subscribing? It really helps the channel out, and we really appreciate it. Plus, you never know, you might find more of this stuff in the future when we make silly one-off videos like this to just decompress. Helldivers is definitely a beast of its own, though. And when it comes to all the people supporting the channel more directly, our incredibly generous patrons, thank you all very much. To the coffee vendors supplying me with infinite caffeine to stay productive and fighting the enemies of Super Earth, to the food merchants that are ensuring that my co-host is alive and well for these episodes and that he's around to suffer, and to the arms dealers providing all of the toys and tricks and tools that we get to talk about in today's video. And to the new guy, thank you very much for Gideon Seeker, new coffee vendor. Thank you very much, my guy. I appreciate it. And with that, the video's functionally over. Outros are hard. I have nothing more to say. I'm gonna custom order an entire crate of Eagle Sweat and ship it to Steve. It's the only thing you're gonna be allowed to drink. It's the only thing you get to drink in the coming future. Goodbye. Thank you, patrons. Thank you very much for supplying this, patrons. Steve shall suffer. Goodbye.